Um, so I just pushed record because for various reasons. One, I know, I think it's, well, anyway, one is on a field trip with some students. They won't be back in time. That'll be fun, honey. It's up with the rest of the stuff. All right, honey, I just started teaching. Please go ahead. Okay. So anyway, how are things going? Oh, and Cassie's not feeling well. Oh, there it is. Abby at the doctor. Okay. Oh boy, now it's hitting everybody. My house is well, and you guys are getting it. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. And I hope you guys, I hope you feel better soon. So anywho, we've got a lot of work today. I know we have 2 videos. Caitlin and Lisa, which one of you would like to go first? Caitlin, go ahead.
All right. So to start off, I'm planning to do screen sharing. If it doesn't work, I have everything backed up so I can just share it with you guys, but I just think it's easier to just do it that way. My student is Jonas. He is a 6th grader. He's reading at about a 1st grade level. He was homeschooled until this year. It's his 1st year in public school. And he's not identified as an English language learner or as a special education student at this point in time. So he is just low, but he's very sweet and he works really hard. Do I need to add anything else?
How low are we talking? What kind of levels are we?
Like he's in 6th grade and he's like right now I'm working with like level G techs.
Great.
So
1st grade. Beginning.
Pretty low.
Yeah.
Yes, beginning.
Can I pop in and ask, like, I'm just kind of curious why he stopped homeschooling this year.
He has several siblings and, well, he didn't tell this to me, but he told this to the reading interventionist at my school that his grandpa, like, said to their parents, like, what are you doing with these kids all day? None of them can read. You have to send them to school. And like, so he didn't tell me that, but he told the reading interventionist at my school. So I guess like the family just kind of encouraged them to put the kids in school. So kind of crazy.
I just thought that might maybe have some important information for us. Thanks.
Yeah. No, and like they have like, it's a big family. They have a lot of kids and all of them just for the first time are in public school now. And again, like he works so hard. He's super sweet, but just little baby.
Well, and that, that kind of brings us to a bigger topic here, in terms of politics and legislation and how people are allowed to homeschool their kids with, with no real oversight or background. And certainly we have plenty of that. So it's just I don't know. I think let's get back to that later, but let's keep that little piece in our minds. Go ahead, Caitlin. So take her away.
All right, cool. So I'm going to screen share in just a second here. He does read really quietly, so I have like a Bluetooth speaker that I can, hook up and get it ready to use if we needed to. And then I do have stuff backed up online if for some reason the screen sharing isn't working. So got to get a couple of things set up here. I'll put the text alongside the video. All right. Can you guys see it? Yeah, okay. Want to try to read something new? All right. This book is called Firefighters. You know what firefighters are? he too quiet? You want me to try to set up the speaker? Yeah?
Yes, please.
There it goes.
They also help keep fires from starting. They teach about fire safety. Firefighters fight many.
Is that better? Can you guys hear it now?
It's better.
Better.
Could we go back to the beginning too?
The whole, do you want to see the whole lesson?
Nah, just for him reading.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you.
All right. This book is called Firefighters. Do you know what firefighters are? Mm-hmm. So give me 1 second. It's all situated. Okay. So whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and start reading.
A fire truck races to a fire. Firefighters put out fires. They also keep fires from starting. They teach about fire safety. Firefighters fight many kinds of fires. They help people save lives. They fight fires in tall bushes. They also fight forest fires. Firefighters use many tools. They use water to put out fires. They use axes to break down doors. They use ladders to reach high places. Firefighter fire trucks spray water on fires. Trucking
What's the first part say? So put it together.
tanker trucks cover water. Ladders trucks covering ladders. Small ladders are very tall. Firefighters go to schools. Firefighters must pass a test. Every year, fires take many lives. Firefighters help keep us safe.
Awesome. You did a really good job with that, my friend. Do you like firefighters? What's your favorite thing about them?
Putting out the fire,
The fact that they put out fires?
like hose people.
Mhm. Okay. So, this book explained a lot of different things that firefighters do, right? So this question says, what do firefighters do? I want you to go back to these pages and see if you can find some of those things that they do, and then you can list them there. So you see how there's just one gap here? That means there's only one thing that you're looking for on this page, and so on and so forth. So we'll start at page 3. What do firefighters do? What does page 3 explain that they do? Perfect. You want to write that down for me? On page 4, there's 2 things that firefighters do.
Keep fires from spreading.
You know this word.
Starting.
Perfect. Okay, so write that down. Okay, there's one more thing on that page that it says they do. What does it say?
Teach about fire safety.
Perfect. You want to write that down for me? Okay. I'm going to go to this page. Okay. So what 2 things do we do according to that page?
They go to school and they must pass a test.
Yep, perfect. Just like this, right? Probably not the same test though, otherwise we could be firefighters. On that page, what do firefighters help do?
Keep us safe.
Okay. The next question, you want to read it to me?
What tools do firefighters use?
So we're going to start at that page.
A smoke mask and a hose.
There's a bunch of different ones listed there, huh? You can add all of them. Mm-hmm. Okay, so on this page, it talks about 2 different types of one thing. What thing is it talking about?
Fire
And then there's another type of truck.
tanker truck.
And they do different things, right? So what's the last tool that they use on this page?
Ladder.
Okay. So can you read me this question?
2 firefighters have an important
Okay. So why do they have an important job? Can you tell me?
keep people from dying in the fire.
Okay, that's a really good idea. You should write that down. Can you write it in a complete sentence? Hmm?
Thanks.
Okay. All right. Well, do you guys need to see anything else again, or want me to back up and play anything else again?
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good.
So why don't we go through and talk about the way he's
All
reading?
right. Sorry, he's hard to hear.
Not a problem. But go ahead and talk about,
Like,
go ahead, Caitlin. I think I was interrupting.
no, that's okay. I was just gonna say sorry. It was quiet. Like I literally considered like miking him when I did it because he's just so quiet. And I mean, he did really, really well with this text, better than he had with some even lower level ones that I'd done before. So I don't know if he just was like really turning it down, but he's in some ways pretty self-sufficient. But yeah, I don't know. Well, how about you guys tell me what you noticed?
Can we go through like the writing first?
Sure.
I mean, not the writing, the reading first, and just
Yeah.
because that was very hard to hear. It's so great having the picture of what he wrote. So I feel pretty confident on that. But the reading, I would
Mhm.
love for you to kind of help me, like, what I think I got it,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not quite sure. So what did you
Yeah,
hear?
could you just go over maybe like the errors that he made? Like tell us what he said and when it was supposed to be? Because I mean, there was just like no way I had any idea what he was saying.
Yeah, I know. And like I consider like I was like, should I mic him? Like I didn't want to like be weird, but he's just so quiet here. I have submitted this lesson, so hold on, let me just grab the link for it because then it'll have like a
Oh, it's on there already? Fantastic.
list of like all of the it's not on there. I just hold on 1 second.
It's
So
in
I
the
can
Dropbox.
Yes, it's in the Dropbox.
Gotcha.
I can get the shareable link. I can just pull it off of Google and then I'll just put it in the chat right now for you guys so everyone can just kind of open it up and take a look at it.
Thank you.
Maybe while
You're
Caitlin-
welcome.
Maybe this is a good time for me to ask my question. I want to submit my lesson plans, but I'm waiting for you to reconfigure the Dropbox because you said you were gonna like put in
More. Yes.
like more and I don't want to submit them in the wrong places.
Yes. The ones that are there are fine. You know, you can definitely
So
do.
you do want us to submit the lessons one by one? Because you
Yes.
had said something about wanting us to submit them in groups or
I rethought that. So
Yeah.
because if I had you submit them in groups, the problem I'd have with that is that not everybody is going to be doing the same 2 lessons in the same week. So if you know, some people would be doing lessons 1 and 2 in 1 week, some people would be doing lessons 2 and 3 in 1 week, and it would just get too messy. So I just decided I'm just going to have one for each lesson, even though it would be great for me for grading if I could group them. But if you could just submit them separately, with all of the stuff that would be relevant to that lesson, I think that's pretty much the only way.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. And that reminds me, I have to add the next, what is it, 7 in there.
So Tanya, if
Yeah, I was wondering about that because I did lesson 7 today.
into lesson 1, should I unsubmit those somehow?
No, I can make that conversion for sure. So if you did 2 lessons in one, you don't worry about unsubmitting them. But if you would, write on a little document, lesson 2 is in blah, and put that in so I know where to look for lesson 2 and everything. Just give me some breadcrumbs is all I'm asking.
I also think that I labeled them. So lesson 1 with the date, lesson 2 with the date. So
Perfect.
yeah.
So that'll probably work just fine. But when I'm in lesson 6 and I'm trying to figure out where, lesson 6 is, kind of send me to the right place. Great.
Okay, so is everybody able to open up the link and then scroll down? I just have all of his errors listed on the top of page 2. And he, like I said, he did well with that text. This was my 4th lesson with him, and I think it was in my first one. I did a level F text, and he bombed. He struggled so much, but he did awesome with this one. He did really well. So.
All right. Okay. Where is the running record? Or no, there it is. It's not a running record. It'd be in the.
It's just a list of the errors, but then if you want to open up the text, there's links to the student text as well as the teacher text on the bottom of the first page.
I got it. Wonderful. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm pleased this is somewhat close to what I had.
You want me to share the link to the running record as well?
No, that's okay. This is
Okay.
sufficient. Well, and I could just this is what you're talking about, right? This part?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and then the text, if you could put that up, is that what you said to me before?
If you scroll up
It's up there?
in the document, there's links to the student text. Oh, down now.
Yes.
Nope, that was for his warm-up one. You're gonna have to, that's not the one we saw.
Teacher text?
Nope, down to the second half of that first page.
Oh, here.
Yes,
Okay. Oh,
teacher text was the one you guys saw.
You are fancy. Look at that.
Hardly.
Impressive. Okay. Gotcha. All right, now I'll stop share so people can.
Okay.
All right. So what? First of all, bushes. Hold on. I was looking at bushes myself.
Mhm.
Bushes.
It was on page 6 of the student text,
They fight fires in tall bushes.
which kind of made sense. I guess in terms of structure, but
It definitely, structurally, it's okay. And because you certainly could fight fires in tall bushes if you needed to, I suppose. And meaning wise that it's not as bad as it might be. So he might be using some meaning there.
at least something that I've noticed that he does is if he doesn't know a word, he'll look at the first couple letters and just say something that he knows starts with those letters. Like in some cases, I've definitely noticed him doing that.
Does he make sure that his guesses are structurally sound and make sense as well?
It depends on the situation.
Not as much. So visual is
He's
definitely
That's not definitive. Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Okay, I have a few thoughts. Are you wanting us to talk yet, or?
Yes. Please talk.
Okay. Um, okay, so my first couple thoughts, or my question, I guess, first is, do you normally coach more in a new reading? Or do you normally let him go through it?
I usually kind of like try to stay backed off as much as I can because I know it kind of takes him a minute to process sometimes. If he like is totally stopped, not just like, taking a minute to kind of think through it, just like stopped, like staring at it and like just looks like he's lost, I'll usually ask, do you want help? Or like, do you want me to tell you what it is? But I've been trying to let him be a little more independent because, there's like, he's in public school. He's never going to have someone sitting right next to him all the time, like telling him every single thing.
Okay, and then so he's definitely just not like the things, it looks like he's using visual and structural, but not meaning. So I guess like what I do with my kids when that's an issue is a lot of times I might let them finish either the whole page or at least that sentence. And then I'll be like, did that make sense? And then they'll say yes or no, and they usually say no, or like they know that I like saying it because of that. And then they'll go back and then try to figure out how it doesn't make sense. And I know it's annoying to do it like every single time, so maybe kind of pick and choose. But like he really only made 4 mistakes. So if you only interrupt him 4 times, like that's not too bad for a new reading. So I guess that's what I do, coaching a lot with meaning, and then just asking him like, does that make sense? And then having him go back and figure out like, it does look like it could be bushes, but it's not. Like, what else could it be? And then, try to word solve those words. Cause I think being at that level F, like I know he's a middle schooler, but I think he still needs those like decoding strategies and, finding the word build and covering the ending and like all that kind of stuff, which you probably aren't used to having to do. But I think this kid could really benefit from that kind of stuff.
Well, and we've been doing a lot more of that, like in our warm-ups, we do, like some phonics and like I do a lot of covering up half the word and all that with them as well. But it's a good suggestion. I like that. Asking at the end of the page, did that make sense? Because that's a good idea. I didn't think about that because I don't want to interrupt him too much because I don't want to like take him out of the story, but it does, in some cases, he does need it. So anybody else have any thoughts or notions?
Well, and I'd like to just piggyback on Megan because I agree with, interrupting is definitely a concern. You don't want to just stop him for no, but in this case where he's losing the train of the meaning, he's losing comprehension and he's not focusing on it, stopping is a really good idea to, disrupt his kind of paying attention to other things and refocus him. And maybe as he goes, he'll, like I think Megan said, like he'll start, it may change his strategies.
Yeah, and with my students a lot, when they go back and they do have to like fix the word, I usually have them reread like the whole page again, and then I think it just like further helps their comprehension. So yeah, interrupting them kind of can like disrupt that, but I think he's not making sense of it. It didn't really make sense, so he's not comprehending the correct thing anyways. So I think for him at least, because it's so many like meaning errors, that it should hopefully actually benefit him in the long run.
Well, and one more idea, and for Megan maybe too, that when you're doing that, you kind of stop in places where he gets things right and stop in places where he doesn't get things right. So he has to be the person who just, he has to really think about it. He can't just say, oh, it wasn't right, I've got to change it. Oh, she's nodding her head. She's like, yeah, that's exactly what you do.
Yeah. That's what I do a lot with my students, especially when they're making the same things. Or, and I know this is different, but I do shared reading a lot with my students, and it's fun because I go and make the mistakes, and then they tell me what error I made, and then we try to figure out like what did I do with my error? Like, didn't make sense? Did it not sound right, or did it not look right? And then they tell me, and then I go back and like try it. So that was something fun I kind of did with him or with my students, so that when I'm doing it, with them and catching them and asking them, they kind of like see me do it too and play that teacher role too. So
Fun.
Anybody else have any thoughts?
my only other thought would be for the sound is putting him, don't worry about seeing him, but maybe put like your laptop literally like right in front of him and don't worry about like the video part or like an iPad or something, because it really is impossible.
I did it on an iPad.
So maybe instead of like videotaping him, just like put it literally like in his mouth.
Oh my gosh. Well, I thought about like ordering, they have little like mics or whatever, like on Amazon, the kind you like pin on your shirt. And I didn't want to be weird and be like, here, let me pin this on you. But I was like, oh my gosh, he's so quiet. Like I borrowed an iPad from the library and like put it like on the tripod and, you know, had it be like on his desk. It was like physically right there. And like, that's he is.
I could hear most of it, just not all of it. It was okay.
Sitting next to him, sometimes I'm like, what? Like, and I'm right there. So he's just a quiet little BB.
I feel for him. What are the ages of his siblings?
I don't know for sure all of them. I think he's somewhere in the middle. He's got a brother that's in 7th grade that actually likes to read a lot. And I think they've got like maybe a couple of them in high school and then some that are younger too. I'm not exactly sure. There's 11 of them though.
And they're all starting this term.
Pretty much, yeah. I think like the other one that's in middle school like likes to read, like picked it up and like enjoyed it. But the rest of them, it's my understanding that just, I don't know what was going on. And like the parents are very nice and like they're really concerned. Like they know that he's really behind and they like want to do everything they can to like help get him caught up. And it's just, yeah, I think it might be a little bit of a road for him. But I mean, like I said, like in my first lesson with him, I did a level F thinking, you know, push him a little bit because that's kind of, you know, where I assessed him at ish, but like, you know, kind of like between E and F, and he bombed it. So I've been like, you know, and like now I'm kind of getting into level G's with him and he's doing really well with those too. So that's great. He's making progress for sure since we've been working together, but he's just
a reader. He's really, I mean, his writing is really good.
It really is. He does a really good job. And like, I mean, I don't know if you noticed that, like, so he didn't, like, I asked him if he could write it in a complete sentence. He was like, I think so, but like, he did not write it in a complete sentence. So I've been working with like some strategies to try to get him to do that because that'll serve him well too. But.
And he is, you know, and he is older. So with younger children who are behind, you won't be able to make up as much. I mean, he's got an attention span that's much greater. And he has more concepts and he has more behind him. So you can probably go a little faster with him, you know, if he's cooperative, you know, without that kind of learned failure baggage that a lot of kids who would have by middle school. In his case, he just hadn't been exposed, right? So he doesn't have that. And he's probably, you know, I would think he's just ready for it. Probably beyond ready for it.
Yeah. Like he works hard. Like he's super willing to like work with me, and like I've been working with him with like more strategies to get him to write in complete sentences as opposed to like he does kind of like fragments, like for the most part. Just like he'll answer the question, but he doesn't, you know, restate the question and just that kind of stuff. So I've been working on that with him in recent lessons, and his writing is actually like, even like since I started working with him, his spelling has improved a lot. Like he's definitely showing good progress, but he's just got catching up to do.
Yes, absolutely. I noticed on that Killed, where he has you know, and that, you know, those kind of little pieces, I mean, he'll get them and then, you know, he'll be able to grab them and run. It won't take long at all, but it's so interesting to see. I mean, even a level G student who doesn't know the ED, you know, because he just wasn't there for that.
Well, and like today in my warm up, I did like a thing where I had him sort, some verbs that were like past tense and present tense, and he had no idea what the different ones. And I was like, okay, so past tense, it happened yesterday, and present tense is happening right now. And like,
But
yeah, and he was just like, what? Like he just no idea what I was talking about, and I was like, oh, okay.
these are parts of our language, and okay, I'm not.
I was like, you know what parts of speech are? He's like, the parts of our speech. And I'm like, okay, that's right, I guess.
A lot of of school-based vocabulary. I mean, you're talking about your academic vocabulary. He's got
Yeah.
a big hill to climb.
Yeah. He
This
did
is
better with singular and plural nouns, though. He did quite well with that.
good. Just figuring out the concepts, like he uses them all the time, and and I'm sure it's just connecting them to, well, school-based stuff. Interesting.
Yeah.
So why don't we kind of branch out on this conversation for just a few minutes? I don't want to take too much time, but what are your thoughts about the fact that about this homeschooling stuff? Because there are certainly people who don't think their kids should go to public schools, and they have very strong reasons for that, and and they're allowed not to. But and I mean, certainly where reading is, where we have a lot of laws, we do have laws saying your students have to be in school from age 5. So to what, 16 in this state? So
I think it's 18, actually. I think they have to stay until they're 18.
I remember in Florida it was 16, and they would and one of the tricks to making the rates of high school graduation go up was to keep a lot of kids from getting into high school, to keep them in middle school, and they had horrible dropout rates in middle school, but high school rates were really high. They had a lot of 16-year-olds in 8th grade.
So I won't surprise anybody that I have an opinion, but mine is based on personal experience with something. In our neighborhood, we had a family who the dad did, I don't know what, he hoarded, I'm pretty sure. Any accountability outside the house, I have no idea. And the mother was a local college instructor, and they homeschooled their children. And when I tried to have conversations or whatever, if you ever could see the kids, it was very rare, and the contact with them was limited. It was kind of odd contact. I don't know how to better describe it at this point. They've moved. But I do not feel that the children were being educated. Something was not right. It actually reminds me of the family of 12 that they just dragged out of the house. So I don't know. I think maybe there's a place for it, but I'm not sure that there's oversights, because my husband, working for social services, did some checking, and there was never any background or anything on this family that indicated problems, but there's nothing to indicate that those children were even receiving an education in that home. Something was very, very, very off. So if it's going to happen, I think oversight needs to be clear, and somebody should be checking in on these children for many reasons. That's my only really caveat to, I just think the oversight is huge for me, and I think that's lacking.
And what a great what a great connection with these people in California and other places that recently have been found just, I don't know, jailing their own children. I go,
If they still live there, I swear I would call and do a report and just say, this feels like the same thing, but I don't even know their last name. It was a rental. I mean, the people that lived there moved up north. A real nice house, really nice neighborhood, but I don't even know their names to even figure out where they are. But I'm telling you, after seeing that family, it's the exact same thing, but there's 6 kids, and something's not right. So
I have a personal connection. Actually, my sister homeschools my nieces and nephews, and they are brilliant. And it's funny because my nephew is a 2nd grader, and he's well beyond where my kids are. My niece is kindergarten, and she's reading the same books that my lowest kids in my class are reading. So I definitely am in favor of it if it's done well. And my sister lives in Madison, and it's a really big community. There's just a huge homeschooling community out there, and they do a lot of things together. And so like on Fridays, the kids they call it all sorts of different names. But on Fridays, they basically go and do like a class, and it kind of sounds like a sciencey thing, but then they also have like an art class and a gym class. And then actually my sister they're very Catholic, so that's also a huge part of it. And she actually like started her own, I think it's called like Catholic Homeschool, or there's like a group, and it's in Green Bay, and that was the closest one. So she actually started her own like branch in Madison. So she's actually like a leader of a homeschool group, and we just like a month or so ago went to like their showcase of it, and it was really cool. So, but it's really interesting because I'm a public school teacher, and then she homeschools. So it's really different, but I think, it's amazing for these kids. And
well, and I think so much of it has to do not even just with like the parents being well-intentioned, because of course, like every parent wants what's best for their kids, but if they don't truly have the time to actually like sit down and teach, I can see why that would be problematic, if that makes sense. And I'm not like, trying to like point any fingers and place blame or anything, because like I like met my tutoring students' parents, and they are like, how can we like get him help in summer school? Like they're like really like trying to do like what's best to kind of get him caught up. But like I don't know. I can imagine that it's challenging. And like I had a student a few years ago who, as an 8th grader, like she was very bright, but like had a lot of trouble focusing and paying attention. And I had her in public school for the first time as an 8th grader. She was homeschooled in 7th grade. And before that, she'd gone to like a Catholic or like some sort of like private, like religious school. And she like was doing pretty well up until kind of like the like later, like elementary grades. She kind of started to struggle. Her mom kept her at home for a year, kind of like hoping she could like work with her one-on-one, but she had a new baby too. So like she just didn't have as much time. So she still like continued to struggle. And then they put her in public school. And I mean, like we had like a lot of talks with them, and they were just so concerned. And like ultimately what it came down to was us kind of like, we invited like the kid into the meeting with us, and we're like, what's going on? Like in class, like, does it feel like time passed and you don't know what happened? She's like, yeah, sometimes. And like, ultimately, like, I think she ended up getting like, just like diagnosed with like ADHD, like, but again, it's like a situation where they're trying to do what's best and, like keep her at home for that year. But then in that situation, she wasn't really progressing either. So it's truly about like how much focus and attention you can put on the kids, just like in public school, because the teacher, like we all know, like it's a lot of hard work in educating short people.
I have a couple of thoughts. One from the high school perspective, I believe that Wisconsin now does a certain amount of minutes that high school students need to have, like our seniors, for example. Whenever we have like an in-service day or a snow day like we had in our area yesterday, we're always concerned about the number of total minutes that the students get. So that's one big thing. I don't know if it's so much by age anymore, but it's by total minutes that these students have. And then second, just what you were ending with, Caitlin, I think that's so true, is that like if we think about like homeschooling, much like we would think about our class ratios, these kids, like I have, the average size to my classes are between 25 and 30 students each. And these students who are homeschooled have that, if the attention and focus and time is given, they have a more one-on-one attention and a scenario where they're maybe getting more tailored instruction. And again, just kind of thinking of it like a class ratio, like it's a smaller student to teacher ratio, and there's an advantage there, I think, if it's done, like you said, with time and attention.
Yeah, I'm almost wondering if there could be some kind of, there's paperwork you have to fill out, I believe, right? If you want to homeschool your kids. So I feel like
I can quickly just tell you, I asked my sister real quick. She just said you have to submit a form saying that you homeschool, but you don't have to prove anything. The only time that they would ever come and like check is if someone reports you to CPS, then you would have to prove things you're doing. So my sister said like she keeps the things like workbooks and things that they've done just in case someone would ever come. But all she had to do.
So I feel like maybe, we have to pass competency tests to just become a teacher. Like maybe you have to take some kind of online screening thing just to even get the form to homeschool. You know what I mean? Just to, and maybe have just some clear strategies, or not strategies, but like standards of what you're expected to do. Because I have a friend who has 4 kids. She homeschools, and it's like Megan's sister. It's amazing. Then I have my youngest sister's husband's ex-wife wanted to homeschool one of their kids, and she like posted on Facebook. My sister shared it with me. I went to the dollar store and got everything I needed for my homeschool. And she just thought she could homeschool teach this kid with like flashcards and workbooks. And I'm like, oh, lady. So I feel she had no clue that there's more to it. So if people don't know that there's more to it and what the standards and expectations are for that grade level, I mean, you're going to get a big variety.
Well, you know, and it's one thing to know what those expectations are, and another thing to require people to teach them, because part of why some people are keeping their kids out is because they don't want certain things taught. You know, I don't think that's for everybody, but that's not everybody's reason. But, you know, I think it is for some.
Well, and I think it even has less to do with like what's taught in terms of curriculum and more so like what they're learning from other students whose parents let them like watch whatever they want on TV and that kind of stuff. Because
Yeah, that
my
probably.
cousin's kids will come home saying some type of crazy stuff, and they're just like, "Who said that to you?" And it's just like some random kid in class.
I also think it's interesting that I don't know, like for example, Megan, if your sister decides, you know, oh, well, maybe by the time they're in like middle school, like maybe 6th grade, how that decision is made, and you know, how is that a fair thing to just be like, okay, and we're going to just homeschool from like these ages to these ages, and then all of a sudden we're going to send you to public school. I just think that's interesting how that decision is made, and like, you know, what that does for students clearly is interesting too, having those different educational experiences.
Yeah, that actually is their plan eventually, is like middle school, depending on when she thinks the kids are ready. But they want to go private.
I think the thing I struggle with the most is oftentimes I feel like after years of experience and a college degree and taking extra classes here, I oftentimes don't feel like I'm doing the best job I can. And I've taught 7th grade 4 years in a row and have like agonized over putting together just a 7th grade curriculum just for one subject area. And I can't imagine feeling like I am getting it right for my kid who I really care about for every year of their education. I just feel like the self-doubt would be so crippling, and I don't think I could ever do it. And I think also I just feel like there's so much more you learn in a school day than the academics, and it's so much more than just learning how to read and learning how to add. You learn how to get along with kids who you don't like, and you learn how to like take almost like take orders from authority that is not your family. And I feel like that's important to learn. And so I don't know that I'd ever make that choice, but like more props to you if you can like have the confidence to trust yourself to teach a kid that much. I think that's awesome.
I agree with Meredith on like that kind of nervousness, but I think I know somebody who was homeschooled, and it was very similar to what Megan was saying. I think you said your sister does. And I think they get that kind of social interaction when they do get together with those other kids that are also being homeschooled. So if you were to go to that route, I think having that group that you can still have your kids interact with and take instruction from maybe some other parents could be incredibly helpful, since they aren't going to be getting that in a school setting.
Yeah, and like my husband works at Board Game Barrister, and like he used to work at the one in Greenfield. He's at Bayshore now, but when he was at the one in Greenfield, there was like a group of homeschool kids that would come in like one day out of the week, and they would all like sit there and play games together and stuff. So like there's a lot of like programs and like different like ways that people can kind of meet each other and stuff. So there's still like a lot of opportunity for socialization, I guess.
Yeah, I would say that I think that like the socialization thing like isn't a valid like thing anymore, unless you're keeping your kids in the house like all day and not going out. My thought with it too, because obviously I've had a lot of discussions about this with my family, but like how you were saying, me too, like I feel like I'm never like the best teacher, but I also have 19 kids that I had to get to know, and I still barely feel like I don't know everything about them, versus my sister knows everything about her kids, and like, their needs and can match their one need. Like, think about how much individual time you're actually able to give your students, like none, So it's interesting because like their time they spend doing things is way shorter because it's just one-on-one instruction and they just pick up on it. And if the kid's not feeling it in the morning, then they can wait till the afternoon or, so I don't know. It's kind of crazy, but.
Yeah. And I mean, certainly there's lots of reasons for and against and whatnot. And I think there's a lot of, but I hope that, just to bring it back to what Tammy was talking about, it seems like schooling is one of the main ways we monitor what's happening to children. And it seems like maybe we could do more of that. Even, just watching out for kids who are homeschooled in one way or another, whether it's literacy or not. Thank you, everybody, for a nice, interesting discussion with lots of connections, too. So why don't we take a break now? We'll take a 5, and then we'll come back, and Lisa will give us and do her video. I know, Lisa, you've got to leave after that, probably. You've got a highly pressured tomorrow, from what I understand. and then we'll, after our second video, we'll go to talking. We'll do talking about literacy lessons and our 2 articles from Language Literacy. So see you in 5. All righty. Let's get started. All right, so we will go to Lisa. So, Lisa, who are we going to see?
Okay. Melanie. She's one of my students. She's in kindergarten. I sound really muffled. I don't know why. I didn't realize until after. But then I tried sending you guys a video, but it was too big. And then I tried like cutting it and compressing it, but it didn't work. So I'm just going to share my screen.
Sounds good.
Did that work? I've never done this before.
Perfect.
Okay. And then I have a little PowerPoint to go with it. That's the first book.
Great. Oops, we can't hear it.
You can't hear it?
What could be happening is that your sound isn't going to your
To the video?
yeah. Well, but yeah, show volume. Yeah, that should be fine. What about your other volume? Make sure that's on.
Yeah, that one's on.
Okay.
Do you hear it when you play it?
I hear it. Do I have to?
You don't have headphones or anything in, right? Because you can't like
No.
mute your stuff.
No, let me see if I can go to sounds. Should I like, you guys can see what I'm doing, right? Should I not click that?
Speaker HP. Yeah, it probably shouldn't be the.
Okay.
Oh wait, it might be. I don't know. Check your microphone. And so that your microphone is a microphone array instead of just kind of your voice.
Can you guys hear it? Oh, wait.
Oh, I just.
Sorry, you guys.
Check Zoom at the, like when you hover over the bottom and you know where you mute yourself, there's that little caret next to it. And that can tell you where your Lisa, will you let me know it oh, okay. Can you hear us now?
Can you guys hear me again?
Yep.
Let me see if my.
Lisa, try this.
Did you guys hear the video at all?
No. but you're not sharing your screen. So
Okay.
that might be some of it.
Now let's see. Can you hear?
No. So what I want you to do is to go down on Zoom, you know, where you mute yourself usually at the bottom. There's a little caret next to you. Next to that, when you click it, it says select a microphone. What do you have checked there?
Wait, for which one?
When it says select, like when you click on the caret next to the mute bar, it says it'll come up, select a microphone, select a speaker, et cetera, et cetera. What is checked under select a microphone?
Under the Zoom?
Yes.
Should I stop screen sharing?
Nope. You can just go down to the bottom and kind of hover over the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So that little microphone comes up in the bottom left-hand corner.
No. It's not coming up when I'm doing that. Oh, here, up here.
Oh, yours might be.
Mine is it the one on top?
Yours might be in a different place. But what is it? What microphone do you have selected?
It says my speaker. Should I plug it into my speaker? Oh wait, audio options.
When you hit play on the video, can you hear the video in front of you right now?
I can hear the video.
Because if we can hear you and you can hear the video, we should be able to hear the video. That's odd.
Can you just turn your volume up so that we can hear it through your speaker?
Yeah, it's all the way up.
And it's just not going to Zoom. So you just have to select the microphone array, I think, so that it doesn't just go out.
Did that work?
Nope.
Let me. Let me see if I plug it into my speakers to see if it works. Sorry, you guys.
The downside of well, and instead of spending too much time on this, I think what I might be doing, she's going to go do this real quick, but if this doesn't work, I'm going to send us into groups for the other thing. I love the sound.
Sorry, my speaker is in a certain place and I have to unplug it. Let's see if that works. Does that help at all?
No, nothing's changed.
Can you guys hear like the speakers?
I can sort of hear something back there, but I can't hear anything really.
It's like super loud for me. I don't know.
Oh. All right. Why don't you and I work on this? And I'm going to send everybody into groups. So you can unshare your screen. We'll figure this out.
Okay.
And what I'm going to do is I'll share a document with everybody. Whoops. Okay. And what I'd like us to do is to go into small groups. But what you're and your job in those small groups is to work on this Google Doc. All right. So these are questions from different aspects of the literacy lessons book that you've gone through. You've read quite a bit of, and there's a lot of really important stuff in there, but I know when you read through the first time, it can be overwhelming. And just knowing that some of it's there is a good idea, but I want us to unpack some of it. So what I want you to do is to go through and answer some of these questions. What is a self-extending system? What about the reading recovery process? And that's what she calls it, resembles and doesn't resemble your RTI process, since RTI was designed in response to reading recovery. And then struggling readers instruction versus successful readers instruction. Clay says they should be different. Are they different at your school and district, and how? Describe it. That should be pages 86 through 92 identifies ways of solving words and writing. So you identify the ways of solving words and writing that you have used before and might use. I know some students who are older struggle with solving words, and what modifications or techniques might be helpful with them. And in that same section, Clay describes ways to use knowns to make learning easier, identify some of the ways she recommends, and add some of your own ideas. And then Elkonin boxes starts on page 92. These are basic and important tool for reading teachers. Describe the basic procedures and things to watch for and modifications as students advance. And then what aspects of MSV occur in a cut up story. So identify those. That should be lowercase. Page 118, describe what a teacher should be doing and supporting in an initial read. And how does this overlap with Johnson's choice words? And finally, what does Clay say on page 122 that about that read it fast, or why does Clay say, excuse me, read it fast doesn't work. Talk about what supports fluency in her estimation. So what I'd like you to do is you're each going to be kind of responsible for different ones. So I'm going to say, Meredith, you're responsible for 1, Megan 2, or actually I probably should make this, well, anyway, Caitlin 3, and Lisa, I'm not going to make you responsible for 1 yet. Amanda 4. I should put numbers on them, shouldn't I? Whoop. Brittany 5, Kirsten 6, Crystal 7, Abby 8. Hi, welcome back. Charnay 9. And who is at the end? I can't tell who that is. So anyway, we'll just do that. And that leaves us with how many? I think that should be exactly the number I have there. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Perfect. Okay, so you know yours, but after you've finished yours, you can go and start commenting on the others as well. So you're all responsible for one of them to make sure that they get attention, but you can all answer any of them. I would say pick
What number was I? I'm sorry, I got kicked out and I just got back on.
I'm going to make you share with Abby. Abby, were you 8? All right, great. So I'm going to send you in small groups so you can have the support of your peers as you go through and do this. And they are going to be somewhat arbitrary, but they're going to be 2 to 3 people in a room. I'll put Abby and Tammy in one room. Oops. And Charnay and Crystal, you're in another room, aren't you? All right. But Charnay, Crystal, and Meredith, I'm kind of putting you all in a similar room. All right, so go forth and enjoy. Some really good stuff in there. All right. So what have you had any luck yet?
Yeah, I have no idea. Like, I did not know that it was going to be this complicated.
No, and it usually isn't. So we just got to figure it out. There's some little thing. So, okay. I almost went, were you able to do that? What happens when you kind of hover over the bottom, like when you shared the screen
Mm-hmm.
and all that stuff comes up?
Yeah.
And on to the left?
Yeah. Do I go to audio options?
Yes.
Or do I go to there's like a few. It says select a speaker, and then it says same as system, leave computer audio or audio options.
Right. Now, first tell me what microphone is checked.
Right now it says my speaker microphone.
Your speaker microphone.
Yeah, like my HP one that I plug in.
Is there an option to make it microphone array or to make it another thing?
Stereo mix Realtek high definition audio microphone array. Yeah, that one's checked.
That one is already checked?
Yeah.
All right. That's the one I thought it was. Well, let's try speaker now.
Okay.
So speaker, what does that one say?
Okay, so under speaker it says the speaker HP Realtek. That might be my computer one because my computer is HP. My speakers are not. And then there's an option for same as system. Okay. And then there's another option that says leave computer audio and then audio options.
Right. All right. So microphone array has been checked this whole time.
Yes.
Okay. That's the one I thought might have been it. Let's check audio options.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it doesn't. Yeah, no. This isn't good.
It just says leave computer audio.
You don't want to do that. So
I think that's what I did before, and that's why I didn't hear anyone.
Okay. So, all right. So that's not working. Now,
would it be same as system? What's the system? Is Zoom the system?
I don't have that check. I have array checked as my microphone.
If I share my screen with you, would everyone see it, or just you and I?
If you share your screen with me?
Yeah, and press play to see if any of that worked.
No, it would work. Yeah, you and I would be the only ones to see it.
Oh, okay.
They're in their rooms, so they've got their own.
Should I? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead and share your screen. Let's try to.
And then. Do you hear her?
I don't.
She was just reading. Did you hear?
No, she's adorable. I want to hear her.
I know, she's really adorable.
So, okay. Yeah,
I tried downloading it. I tried uploading it on YouTube and everything. I don't know. Like, my computer just crashed a few weeks ago.
Oh, no.
And so, like, everything had to get, like, fixed. So I don't know if that has to do anything with it.
It could be it could be something is set funny for sure. So you couldn't put it up on YouTube.
No, the file was too big.
Okay. There is a way to put larger files on, and maybe that's what we need to do. So let me look
Yeah.
on mine real quick, and because I do that all the time, because I put this file, these recordings up on YouTube, and
Yeah, I don't know. I need to be better at this kind of stuff.
no, it took me a while to figure this out. Let me make sure. And I have to do the same things. Upload videos longer than 15 minutes. Here we go. And for some reason, here, so here is, well, here's the link to the way to upload longer videos or larger videos.
It says there's still like 17 minutes remaining.
That's okay. That's okay.
Okay.
The group isn't going to be ready for a while, so
Okay.
You're all right. But so let's just let that upload. When it uploads, you can just give us the link,
Okay.
and we could go through and do that.
Yeah.
Or you can just send it to me, and I could be the one to share my screen with it.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you have a
Mhm.
document that you would also want to share with it?
It was a PowerPoint one. I think I emailed it through
Oh, I remember. I got it.
Yeah.
Yes.
the Outlook one.
Right.
And I couldn't do the other one.
I did get that. I recall getting that. I think it was today.
Yeah. I was just trying to do it before class because I didn't.
Just as
I
a
just thought that it was gonna work right away.
backup. Smart. Let's see.
So if I upload it, do I just attach it as like a OneDrive link?
When you upload it, it'll tell you. When it's finished, it'll give you a location for it, and just send that.
Okay.
It'll say
But you
you
do
can
it as
play
an
this.
attachment, right?
Yeah, you can play this as, and just copy and paste it into the.
Hey, while we're waiting for this to upload, can I ask you a question about my program?
Sure.
Okay, so I'm trying. I think when I talked to you originally, I was doing like I don't even remember. I think it was like in curriculum and instruction, and then like to be a reading teacher, or is it reading specialist?
Yeah, probably maybe both.
Yeah. So what's the difference between both of them? Because I know I talked to you last time, and I wasn't sure if I was going to enroll. And then you said I needed like one more class until I can get what was it?
The reading specialist.
Okay.
It's really 3 classes, but it's only 6 credits, so it's kind of like 2.
Okay.
And really, as part of a 30 credit master's, a lot of times the way we sub things out, no extra credit. It's just a way to, we can sub the credits so that you can get both the reading teacher and the reading specialist as part of a 30 credit master's.
Okay.
But I'd have to double check that, because what program did you come from?
From early childhood.
From early childhood. You should, that should be fine for you to do.
Okay. because I wasn't sure if I wanted, because I know the reading teacher one, my other class that I took, it was like focused on a lot on middle and high school.
Yeah.
And like,
you're talking about content area reading too.
yeah.
That one
And
is.
and then for that one, I don't know, I just felt like if the degree had anything to do where it was with higher or with middle and high school too, I'm like, I don't know if I want to keep doing that one or if I want to switch, because I know I don't want to do that ever. Like I'm afraid of middle and high schoolers. And so I wanted to talk to you about switching to a different program.
Well,
Were there any other ones there? Or I don't know, what do you think? I have no idea.
well, there's only 2 licenses for reading people.
Mm-hmm.
And the reading teacher is kind of the general license, and the reading specialist is more the administrative license. But you know, like reading teacher is really the one that most people want when they look for it, and reading specialist is more the, you know, going up in the hierarchy and becoming like a trainer for people and things like that.
Yeah.
But and not everybody wants to do that, but but because principals and other people don't really understand the difference between the licenses, a lot of times they won't even let you interview without a reading specialist license because they think that's the license they need.
Yeah.
It's just a misconception, but it's out there. So for that reason, I would recommend kind of doing that. It will at least make you a better resource for the other people in your area. Both licenses are K-12. So they're just, I mean, that's the content area reading you have to take because you didn't take part of your undergrad, and because it's a K-12 license, it's part of what you have to do. So hopefully, and unfortunately, we don't have enough people who have to take it like you know, at the graduate level, you know, after they've already done, you know, to offer a section that really aims right at lower level students. I mean, you know, which is what I certainly would have preferred, you know, I was going through as well. But, you know, you get what you get. And so just because you get this license doesn't mean you're going to be teaching in the upper levels. It just means that the license requires you to understand some of the things from K to 12.
Right. Okay.
And those are the reading licenses. There isn't really another option.
Okay. That's, I mean, it's more clear now.
It's not great. And you know, I think you're doing the ERE piece too.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the gold standard. I mean, you know, this literacy lessons better than I do. So you're getting, as you know, probably the best reading for your kindergartners or any of the younger kids that you can.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Almost
Sorry
done.
about content area reading. It is a big class. It's
it is. It was really stressful. I had to wait on it.
Okay. Understood.
Is it taken over this, like, can we take it over the summer or no?
Yes, it's offered over the summer. It's online.
Oh. Okay.
And other graduate students will take it online. You know, summer it is when a lot of the graduate students who have to take it online, I mean, do take it. I don't know. It's offered every semester. So, and sometimes that allows a class to be more, I should say, less middle and high school centered, because there are fewer middle and high school programs taking it at that time.
Okay. I might have to think of that option because it's hard for me to do it. I mean, my school, I don't know. I feel like, I mean, we're all teachers and so we know how it is, but my school is just ridiculous right now. So
is it? You know, it sounds like you're stressed out and everything. You know.
Yeah, I mean, it's really stressful.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, they just require too much from us without giving us any
compensation,
any resources, and I mean, I don't know. I feel like I'm just complaining, and that's a lot of places.
Well, it's true, but it didn't used to be so bad.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that.
That's okay.
Where
So
are you?
yeah,
Remind
I'm
me.
at Hmong American Peace Academy.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And they probably are struggling with resources themselves. So
Yeah, they are. I mean, I know that the school is trying to expand, and so then the CEO, principal, whatever she calls herself, is like really cutting budget,
yeah.
and so then and I don't know, it's crazy.
Oh my gosh.
And next year they're having us thinking about having more than 30 kids, and there's like no, we don't have any paras. I have technology toys. I have technology twice a week, and I have to teach it, and then and that's like my only time during the day besides like a quick lunch, and then yeah, it's really overwhelming. I've talked to the coaches about it, and I talked to my principal about it too. I'm like, I don't want to stay late after school, but I don't have an option because you guys took my prep time, so I'm prepping after school. So yeah, it's just really crazy
And
here.
you're probably running around after school trying to figure it out too.
Mhm.
Like, "Oh, okay, I gotta get ready for tomorrow.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that is horrid. I mean,
Yeah.
I know it got worse and worse and worse, but they took everything away.
Yeah, and yeah, it's crazy. And our report card comments are a whole page per student. And so it's 4 to 5 paragraphs per student, and I have 30 kids.
Oh, I have to say, as a parent, I don't want to read all that.
I know. Like some do, maybe like 1 or 2 out of 30 families.
I just
And
want to.
it's like, yeah. And I don't know, it takes so long to do it. And they're coming up, and I'm like dreading it already.
Well, and I know that when I read ours, there's a lot of cut and paste in there, and I can tell.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I like cut and paste a lot, but then I end up changing most of it.
Ugh.
So like a lot of other teachers, I'm like, I don't know how you guys can just cut and paste, because they're like, just cut and paste, Lisa. I'm like, yeah, but then I go and I reread it, and they're so different from each other, and then I end up changing everything.
Right. I mean, there's so much. There's only so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're very careful. My one son has a teacher with triplets. She doesn't care.
Oh. Yeah. And when I have like cousins or something, or like a twin in another class, I'm like, okay, let me make sure that theirs sound very different.
That's funny. Well,
It's processing. 2 minutes left, it says.
oh, very good. Not too bad. I'm looking to see if they're still working here. Looks like this is the great part of these Google Docs. I can kind of watch some of the thought processes. Did you make this book for her?
Huh?
Meet Maylene, did you make this book for her?
No, it was just a PowerPoint. I was trying to figure out a way to get everything in like one doc, and so then I just put like the book that she read. I took all the pictures and I just posted it up.
Gotcha. Okay, I see. And there's her face. Yes, on the front, but not
Yeah.
in the book. I gotcha.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, you're good.
I am pretty extra like that though sometimes.
Yeah.
Reading stuff.
Well, and I mean, it's a passion, it's a responsibility. It's, when you're devoted and a good teacher, these are the things that happen, and we should be compensated therefore. So. Oh, and he doesn't? You did. Oh, I can probably fix it. Why don't you bring it up here?
It was from Alexa.
Oh.
It almost break it.
Oh no.
Almost break it.
Oh no.
And it almost break it. I can do one.
Oh, well, maybe you can
I
fix it.
can do two.
Okay.
Not three. Now it's gonna break.
Oh no.
And if we would set the environment like crap.
Did Daddy come back?
Uh-uh.
Okay, he'll be back soon and we'll fix it.
He's back already.
Oh, he is. Okay.
That's what it's doing.
Okay. Well, let me know if I can help, honey.
I want you to help right now.
I'll help in a bit, okay? If you want to wait for me, that's okay too, okay? But you got to be quiet up here. You have to wait for 20 minutes, all right?
I cannot. Or it will be bedtime and then what is and Daddy and Alan will be upstairs and then sleeping and then can talk to him.
Oh, I see. You know what? I think I am going to go do this because I do have like a couple minutes I can grab while you're doing that.
Sure.
All righty. I'll be back.
Okay. I think I got it to work.
Fantastic.
So
He's getting ready to go. He's getting tired. I know that.
oh,
That stuff that doesn't make any sense. I'm like, he'll be
Yeah.
asleep before the end of the.
sounds so cute. How old is he?
He's 4.
Aw.
He won't be in 5K for a couple more years though, because he's a November.
Oh.
But he's in Montessori, so he's already started.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
So you've got it.
Yeah, I shared it with you, but I think I have to share it again when they come back. And then-
Maybe, or I could just share it.
Okay, sure.
Either way.
Sure. It's about like 30 minutes almost. So I don't know, we can skip through whatever.
Right. We only want 10. We should probably figure out what 10.
Oh, okay. Do you guys want like the first The new read or the running record?
Why don't we do the new read?
Okay. So the new read would be, it's like the last 10 minutes.
All right.
I think that would have been a lot easier. For some reason, I thought it was a whole lesson.
Oh, so you could have chopped it down. Or well, actually, why don't I ask you then, what do you think would be most interesting for you to get feedback on? Do you want to hear them, about a running record? Do you want to hear feedback on, how she's writing or reading, or what would be your preference?
One more time. I mean, honestly, it doesn't really matter to me. I would like feedback for any of the sections.
Okay.
So
let's see. Oh, did you do a cut up sentence? Is that what this is?
yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
How'd that work?
It was good. I've been doing, because this is my second semester in ERE too.
Right.
So I've been doing it for like half a year now. Yeah, it's really good. I like it.
I think that cut up sentence is powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And come to think of it, I'm glad that this happened where you couldn't go back and answer all the questions, because you know the answers to all those questions. Let the other people kind of fumble through. It'll be great to have them see you too. So I'm just going to play the last 10 minutes.
Sure.
Part of both, because I think it'll be useful for them to see you.
Okay.
Now, not thinking so much of you, but of them. Like, let's show a real a real reading recovery type lesson. So
yeah.
They can see what they're reading about. All right. And then I'll put up the PowerPoint, and then the book we're gonna do is the easy read. No, that's the easy read. Running record. Here we go. Writing and the new read. Gotcha. That up on the one side and with gas. All right. All right. I'm gonna bring them back.
Okay.
And we'll debrief from that, and then we'll go into the lesson after break. I'm sorry, I know you wanted to leave early.
No, it's okay. It's my fault.
No, it's not your fault. It's technology's fault. I'm just sorry that it ended up this way.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Thank you.
All right. I'm gonna zip into the rooms here and see how they are doing.
I actually had a sub today for English Festival. You should see my sub plans. They're so detailed.
I know, mine would always be like very scripted. Like it would take me hours.
Mine
doesn't even take me hours. I'm just really organized.
Mine are not like that. And the funny thing is, we have a building sub, and I had her, I think twice. And she doesn't even do it. Like in reading, it was like our workshop starts with a mini lesson. I didn't do it like an actual mini lesson, but I said, ask the kids what they're working on and have them like point out.
Do you have to take a
Boo.
sounded like, oh,
Sorry.
I didn't have the screen up, and I was like, what? Voice.
I was just wondering, if you guys were ready to come back and talk. You'll be responsible for your own question.
Yeah, I think we're just adding some final things to our questions, but yeah, we're about ready.
Great. Then I'll go. I'm just checking around. All right. I'll be calling you back soon.
Okay. Do you have?
You got it.
Hi, Tanya. Hi. Just warning, I'm thinking of calling you guys back soon, and I'm just double checking that everybody's okay with that.
Yep. Yeah, we're good. We thought we would just hang out in here until we got the all clear.
Very cool. You'll be responsible for your question.
Sounds
we're kind of presenting what people said on your question. Including you, but other people too.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Oh, sure. Now, where am I going? Right. 4.
I should have done.
Next time.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much where I'm at then. So if you're good with that.
Hi. Are you guys ready to come back and share your question?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
I'm
done.
not sure if we were supposed to leave or not.
No. You can if you want, but you guys are responsible for presenting your question and anything anybody put on there.
Okay.
So we're supposed to come back to the full group now.
Yep, I'm going to be calling you back.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
All right. Good. All right, time to call them back. Oh, I already did that somehow.
Here, put it on the cup.
Sorry, you guys.
It's going to work out just fine, except for you have to stay longer than you were hoping. All right. All right. Do I have everybody now? No, we're still waiting. 15 seconds. All right, everybody. So I was hoping you guys would share your questions. I know that you're not the only ones that probably wrote on each of your questions, but I know you all had responsibilities for one or the other. So let's share out a little bit. Who is one? Self-extending system.
That was me.
Great.
So the idea of a self-extending system is pretty much where you're trying to get kids to use what they already know about reading and writing to help them learn more about reading and writing as they do it on their own. So the goal is that you're not teaching kids every single little thing they need to do. Instead, you're like helping them build up some core understandings about phonics, reading and writing, so that as they read and as they write, they're learning on their own. And so in order to teach for that, you would try to get kids to problem solve on their own. So notice their own errors, could encourage attempts to fix their mistakes, try to give them subtle little clues so that they can self-correct on their own. And Clay said not to overuse it, but here and there you could ask them, how did you know that? Or how did you figure that out? Just to push them to be more aware of their own thinking.
Kind of popping it up to that metacognitive level.
Yes, exactly. And that's kind of what we had talked about in our group, is getting kids to be aware of their own thinking and kind of take the reins of their own improvement.
And be in control. That's a great point. This has to do with agency as well. Ding, ding.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. What about number 2?
That was me. So I just had a few notes we talked about. So we kind of thought, that's why there's kind of a question mark, that the reading recovery was meant to be done one-on-one, which wouldn't be happening at my school. And then because we were kind of talking about, we thought reading recovery was like more of like a tier, what was it, Amanda? Tier 2, right? Or 2, 3?
Well, I feel like the way she has it designed, it's like a tier 3, but that's not really what's happening necessarily, because to get to tier 3, like, is pretty intense. So like most kids are getting a reading intervention in tier 2 in groups of 3 to 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's more of a small group thing. And then I just kind of said the whole process, matching the RTI process, just catching those kids before they fall into the crack and then giving them proper interventions. For me, like our RTI process, I feel like we do a pretty good job at it. There's a very like systematic process that they follow and teachers have to follow. And there's a lot of data that we use to kind of triangulate it. And so in that sense, I do kind of think it resembles it a little bit with how it's supposed to be, but that's just my school.
And it's not working that way in everywhere. I mean, I hear that
Mhm.
it's failing across the nation.
Yeah, well, and I think over the couple past years, we have like a newer principal, newer academic dean. So I think our school has just kind of taken it upon themselves and done a better job of it. And every year it has changed a little bit with like what the teachers do, but I think it's only gotten better. So
Very nice, very nice. Thank you, Megan. Number 3.
Well, so I'm honestly not really sure at all what goes on at the elementary level, but in terms of struggling readers versus successful readers, for SPED, kids who are like low, like significantly below grade level, like need a smaller setting, do like a pull-out ELA class with a special ed teacher who is like, I know like LLI is a part of it. I know the special ed kids in my house are actually like, we have the really low group and like every single one of them is in a pull-out class, and they can do even some of the grade level stuff as long as they like listen. And I mean, like the special ed teacher who I have that works with them, he likes to do some of the stuff that like the other kids in the grade are reading, so that, you know, even though they're in special ed, they can still like, oh yeah, we read that story too, and kind of talk about it, which is, I actually like that a lot. I think it's really good. Kids who are in SPED but are like a little more self-sufficient, a good number of them are also just in regular gen ed ELA classes. Sometimes with the support of a special ed teacher, and just kind of depending on the need of the student and availability and all that stuff. For our ELLs, they rarely have in-class support. We only have one ELL teacher in our whole building, and it's just impossible for him to cover everywhere. He does have like a pull-out language class during electives for some kids, like kind of at that like overall like 3 to 4 level, like not like the really, really low level ones, because they're usually receiving intervention elsewhere. And like not with like the kids who are like exiting the program just because they don't really need it at this point. And for gen ed, I mean, kids who are identified as struggling can be put into a reading resource class, which is just like a pullout during an elective, but like that depends so much upon like availability, and like if a kid is in, you know, gym class, they're required by law to take it, and then if they're in like band or choir, or like one of like those music electives, parents don't want them pulled out of it, so it's like, oh well, no room in the schedule, because, you know, reading's just not important. So that is kind of the thing that gets me, that I'm like, really, because they're in 8th grade, like no one's going to figure it out for them in high school. This is kind of the last chance we have to rein them in, so that kind of hacks me off, but what do I know? Within my classroom, I try to make modifications the best that I can, you know, but I mean, I was even giving an example that like, do I have some kids that are like, you know, pretty far below grade level in my classes? Yeah, but you know, some of them, they work really hard, and I'm obviously always willing to work with those kids, but some of those kids by 8th grade are just making the choice to not do it. So it's not shocking that they don't show any improvement because they don't want to work for it. So, I mean, I really have to, you know, with my classes of, you know, in the ballpark of 25 kids, decide who I'm going to spend a little bit more time with. And when it comes down to it, I'm always going to choose to work with the kid who wants to improve over the kid who just wants to sit there and chat, because it's just not a good use of my time. Sorry, this cat is needy.
Well, and that's the thing, you know, and that is a structural, you know, an institutional barrier for a lot of kids, you know, that you have to be the one that it's kind of teacher friendly, and not all kids are for whatever reason, but they get disadvantaged, and for good reason, because why should the teacher, if she's going to choose, you know?
And it's not even that they're not teacher friendly. Like I have really good relationships with a lot of my kids who won't do anything. Like I have like good personal relationships with them, but well, and like, I don't know if that's the way I made it sound, like, well, you don't want to do anything, so I won't talk to you. It's certainly not that. I definitely still check in with those kids, and I'm like, hey, how's it going? What can I help with? Do you have questions? When they repeatedly just like don't want to, and I work in a building that administration kind of just lets them not, like, I've, you know, made that more of a battle in the past of the kids who were those intentional non-learners and trying to involve admin, and ultimately what kept happening was the kid, like, they would just get sent back to my class with like basically nothing, and like admin wasn't really trying to make them do anything either. So I was like, if you're like gonna validate their decision to do absolutely nothing, it does me no good to even take it to you.
Right.
So
Exactly. And well, and I wasn't meaning that the kind of be a teacher's pet type of thing. But really that, that the kids who can kind of seize that moment, they know how to, they already have a leg up in that they know that what they need to know, and they know they need to kind of be that learner and take that risk. But the kids that, aren't there, are of course going to be at a further disadvantage because you just don't have the time in your day to fight that battle. I mean, it's not like you can solve the institutional problems of, of schooling by yourself.
I said I'd be a millionaire. I wouldn't be slumming it as a public educator.
And those millions would just be a drop in the bucket. They couldn't make the change that's needed in these kind of things. It's the truth. No, I wasn't thinking you were just like, well, it has nothing to do with teacher preference really. I mean, it's not about teacher preference. It's about you choosing to use your time wisely because you don't have much of it.
Exactly. And like make a difference for the ones who are willing to let you make it for them.
Yeah. Exactly. Sorry, I didn't mean to. So, does anybody else want to talk about that? Because she said, she's in a different situation than other people. How do your schools do struggling reader versus successful reader instruction?
I can go. I'm at the high school level, so I think it's fairly similar to Caitlin. Something that I struggle with, and I actually talked with Kirsten about it when we were in our group. We have students who, and not many, thankfully, that are not low enough for the functional skills program, but not high enough for the regular ed program, and we really don't have a class for them to take for English. So it's kind of like they're stuck in the middle. And right this year, we have a class that's supposed to be taken alongside English 9, where we teach them reading comprehension strategies because they were identified as struggling readers. But on the days that we're not focusing specifically on those comprehension strategies, we reteach English 9 concepts. And they've been sticking these kids who aren't ready for English 9 but aren't low enough for functional skills. They've been just putting them in that class with us. But when we reteach English 9 concepts, they have no idea what's going on because they're not in English 9 because they're not high enough for that. So that's kind of frustrating. And then the only other struggling English classes are more for kids that already failed. Like we have an alternative English 10 class that's for you failed English 10 already, so now we're going to stick you in the alt English 10. And you didn't necessarily fail because you struggle with reading. You may have failed because of behavioral issues or just because you didn't feel like doing any of the papers in English 10, so now you're in this class. So it's kind of frustrating seeing how we handle it at the high school. I know that they're working on changing it, but as long as I've been there, that's how it's been. So.
And I know high schools are probably the last to this party of, trying to differentiate for different readers.
I was in Caitlin's group, and I was saying that in the elementary level, I have the perspective of being a classroom teacher, and I've also done intervention. And in my math intervention, I know for a fact that my instruction was much more direct than it was in the classroom. In the classroom, it was just a lot more investigative, a lot more, we did, there was an investigation we would do, and I would differentiate with the numbers that the kids used, but it definitely was more direct, basic facts type stuff in my intervention because that was the gaps that they were missing. But then we could also take big leaps if we needed to, whereas in the classroom, you kind of just have to teach to the middle.
And you can't skip anything because there are definitely kids that are going to need it.
What I've been struggling with this year is, like Amanda reminded me, she's saying you have to teach to the middle. And it surprised me when I got my mid-year assessment data back, because I saw this huge jump in my kids who were below grade level. And I saw my kids who were on grade level or above just plateauing. And I think that was really revealing to me. And what it told me was I haven't been teaching to the middle. I've been teaching to like the lowest of the kids. I've been teaching to those kids who are really behind. And I think what's hard as a classroom teacher is trying to keep your standards, like your level of instruction where it should be, so that like the class as a whole is moving forward, rather than leaving any kids behind or letting kids kind of stagnate. And I think I made the mistake this year unknowingly, kind of teaching to where the level felt appropriate, and some kids really benefited and other kids didn't, at least according to the data. Not that it was wasted time for them, but just didn't necessarily help them improve. And so I think when you're teaching to such a huge range of needs, which every classroom teacher is, I think the biggest difficulty is calibrating the level of instruction you're giving. And what I find is that I'm so used to the ability level of kids at my school that sometimes I think my expectation for what an on grade level 7th grade student is doing is different from another school, because I'm so comparative. Like my students are struggling compared to other kids in my classroom, or my students are doing well compared to other kids in my classroom, but I don't think that they would be given the same labels at other schools. And I think that's really hard to have a conversation with other teachers at other schools, because I think we're comparing. I don't think we all have the same
baseline
measuring stick. And I think that's what the Common Core was trying to do, but I really still struggle, especially with reading, to understand what the difference between a 5th, a 6th, a 7th grade reader is according to the Common Core. And I don't know if anyone else has that difficulty, but I've been really questioning this year whether my thermometer for 7th grade material is accurate or not. I don't know if anyone else has.
Are you the only 7th grade English teacher at your school, or yeah?
Yes, I am.
That makes it a lot harder, because like, so I work at a school that there's 3 teachers of each subject for each grade level. So we meet weekly and like compare data like with one another as well. So I think that does kind of like help put it in perspective. But
yeah, we're a very
even
small
if you're just comparing amongst the students in class, yeah. Well, but I mean, even like when I think about my class, like I don't like know the other teachers, look at the data and see like, okay, like, you know, like all across the board, and like we'll decide, you know, like what proficiency looks like, and, you know, emerging and all that stuff together before we even like give the assessment and like collect the data, because we're required to do it weekly in our meetings. But like usually our results like look just like about the same. And I mean, even if you're only comparing your students to your students, like, I mean, I feel like that's good enough, because like if that's all you have to go off of, like I do that all the time within my classroom and say, okay, like I pretty much like you can tell where they're at. Like I think you're not giving yourself enough credit.
Certainly, different levels are different, and the nuances are hard to get your head head around. And
especially, I'm so sorry, Tanya. Go ahead.
I don't want to break your thought. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, especially in the middle grades, it feels like kind of a neglected range. Mm-hmm. And it feels like there's not a lot out there about what to do with kids once they know how to decode, but aren't necessarily ready for such content-specific stuff like high school. And so I think I do feel oftentimes like the mentality is, it's all about exposure, because don't worry, they don't really need to know that till high school, and the high school teacher will take care of it. And so oftentimes I don't really know what my role is and what my duty is as a middle school teacher, because I feel like kids who are on grade level or above are going to continue being on grade level or above, and it's kind of not dependent on me and how great of a teacher I am. It's the kids who are below that really need help.
I've definitely said that myself, even for other grades, but I would second your frustration with that middle grade area. There certainly when I started studying this stuff, there was nothing for middle grades. Now there's more. There's actually materials with high interest, low levels and things like that you might be able to pull from. And there are people working on it, but I would say that we don't have a Mari Clay for middle levels yet. And we still need somebody to step in and be able to organize it. And maybe there will be no Mari Clay, but there's, there's more now than there was, but I don't think we're done. I'd agree.
I mean, like Nancy Atwell does a lot. Like in the middle was like one of the big things that I remember we had to read in college. And like, I mean, maybe revisit that. She had a lot going on there. Obviously, I haven't read it for years and I haven't revisited it much.
Yeah, it's great. But yeah, that's not going to answer everything. So anyway, okay, I don't want to get, I know we don't have any time left. So, okay, let's keep going. Question 4. Who is 4?
That's me.
Great.
So for this one, I guess I liked the idea of using kids writing, that's words that are in the kids' writing that they've used in context, and that they're close to writing correctly. My daughter just farted. Sorry. It wasn't me, if you heard that. Anyway, and then I really liked the idea of practicing and writing a newly known word repeatedly to make it fluent. And I guess initially when I read that, I thought, well, that seems like drill and skill. But then I'm doing a long-term sub in reading intervention, and I worked with some kids today that we were doing writing. And when they had those known writing vocabulary words, they could write so quickly. And I had second grade students at the same level who were struggling as much in reading that I didn't do that work with them. And writing was so laborious for them. Like it was just so hard because they didn't have these words that they could write quickly, even though they could read them quickly. So I thought, I might not necessarily do that in my classroom, but as an interventionist, I could see that being really useful. And then we had a good conversation about words their way and how she talks about looking for spelling patterns and chunks that kids know, and then finding similar words. So words their way does a lot of that with blends and vowel teams and vowel patterns. And then working up into looking at older kids, words their way gets into Latin roots and stuff like that, that even as a teacher I'm not familiar with, but if you use the curriculum, like it's very helpful. You can learn with the kids. And then also for older kids, Megan suggested maybe having like an anchor chart for them with those spelling patterns as like hints and examples. And I thought of the idea of doing like a laminated bookmark so it's more discreet, like they can kind of keep it private. So, if they're embarrassed about having to use that.
Nice. Nice. And words their way. I love it. I do love it. There's a lot of different things that you could do with words their way is one of my current favorites. All right. Number 5.
Well, I had number 5, and I know in that section of the book, the 86 to 92, it seemed a bit more about like writing and writing fluency and how known words can help them create relationships to new words. And I would picture that as more than just writing, but I feel like that could be used in reading as well. And then she also stated about how when working with known words, you can have them write them faster to work on writing fluency. And then that can be applied to other writing activities, like when they write their own stories. And then for me, using knowns, I use that a lot with making connections to things that they're reading and writing about. But then I also, since I teach biology, I co-teach biology, one of the things that my kids have to do is they have to read a science article and then fill out this graphic organizer where they write a claim, find evidence, and then put it all together in one paragraph. And when I teach them that, I kind of refer to, like, in English, you guys write a thesis for your papers. Well, that's kind of your claim in science is your thesis. So when you're writing that, kind of think back to how you would do that in English class. And they kind of look at me like, what, English and science? No way. And it kind of blows their mind. But then we kind of get into the discussion about how like what you're learning here applies to other areas and other classes, and same with what you're learning in those other classes can apply to what you're doing here. So that's kind of how I incorporate knowns in my classes.
Oh my gosh, that's a conversation that never happens. It's a wonderful one. Breaking down those disciplinary walls.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, because the way we've got them hacked up right now, it just doesn't help. All right, Elkonin boxes, number 6.
That was me.
Great.
So I have that they're used to help students break the sounds and words apart. So like being able to separate and distinguish all those different sounds that make up a word, and kind of prompting them as they're breaking up those sounds. So like, what sounds are you hearing at the beginning? What are you hearing in the end? What are you hearing in the middle? Kind of to help them break those sounds apart. And then I didn't write this on there because I didn't quite know exactly how to write it so it would make sense. So I figured I'll just say it. So to kind of make it difficult, like you can start with a like very basic word like cat. So there's 3 sounds, 3 letters. And then to make it more difficult, or as they get really good with those ones, you can do words where there's maybe 2 letters to 1 sound. And then you could do words where there's maybe 2 letters to 1 sound, and then the next 2 letters make another sound. So there's multiples of those 2 letters going together to make different sounds, if that makes sense.
Well, it does to me, but I've done them for years.
Okay. I mean, it makes sense in my head, but I don't know once I say it if it actually makes sense to other people.
No, I think that makes sense. That was a good
Okay.
explanation.
So that's kind of, yeah. And I think that kind of then gradually doing that with them makes it, they're, I don't know, having to dissect the sounds more and more and think about them more and more as you make it harder and harder.
Very nice. And just a couple helpful hints that I don't think she says in there. I can't remember if she says it or not. 2 things. You can't keep more than 5 sounds in sequence in your head at one time. So you shouldn't have Elkonin boxes that are longer than 5 boxes. If you're doing a 10 box one, you're kind of losing the thread in there, and it won't be effective work. So keep it to 5 boxes. Then also, if you say to your student, all right, well, let's just say cat. Okay, you're sounding out cat. Could you tell me how many sounds are in cat? And the student goes, at. You don't need Elkonin boxes. The student has it. You don't have to break them apart. It's if the student really can't tell you how many sounds are in the boxes. So if your student does that, you can just not do the Elkonin boxes. You're free, but it's for students who really can't count the sounds that Elkonin boxes are helpful.
When you guys were saying cat over and over and over again, both of my cats that are across the room were just staring in this direction, trying to figure out what's going on. And I thought that would brighten everyone's day, so I just wanted to tell you, sorry.
I love it. A little feline participation of sorts. All right, number 7.
That's me. So at first when thinking about like this cut up a story or message idea, I thought it was like really, really low level, like really very elementary. And because the way that Clay likes to use story sometimes is in reference to like a sentence, and she even acknowledges that. So I was like, I don't know if this really applies to me, or maybe even at a middle school. But now that I'm thinking about it more, I think it hits on some really important aspects. And it can be used for all 3, MS and B. So I think you could kind of do it in multiple different ways. But first of all, I think having the student compose the story or the sentence themselves would help them show that they are tapping into their prior knowledge and they have some kind of expertise in whatever sentence or story they're constructing, so that'll get into meaning. They're also having to borrow from like different story grammar or structure that they're familiar with. So, once upon a time, maybe that's how they decide to start the sentence. That would be tapping into some prior knowledge of some kind of story that begins that way. It's very syntax heavy and very visual, this activity, and I like that. With syntax, the students have to definitely consistently be asking themselves, does this sound right if I put the story back together in this way? And they're constantly having to check themselves. So it's a really good activity for that. And then it's really visual, and I feel like you can do a lot of different things with the visual piece. With with the words in the sentences, you could combine them and have the student put it together with phrases. You could also cut up the word itself into onset and rhyme, or maybe some different syllables. But the caution that Clay gives is that you don't want to really cut up too much and really trick the student, but you want to focus on maybe an area that they need some help with, and then focus on breaking the word or the sentence up in that way. But it does really hit on all three, MS and B. And in our small group, I talked about a friend of mine who does a lot with grammar work, and she likes to have students do some more kinesthetic activities, and she's done it before where she's taken a sentence and given a student on a big piece of paper like a comma or a word, and then they have to, a group of 10 students have to visually recreate the sentence. And I think you could use it in that way too, as kind of like a whole group activity. I think it'd be kind of cool. So there's multiple uses at any level, I really feel like, for this activity.
Wonderful. I love it. Great. Thank you.
I just have to say, this is one of the first times I've seen a really good strategy for teaching phrasing, because I feel like teaching that is so hard, because most kids just pick up on it naturally, like how to read with proper phrasing and prosody. And if they don't get it, I remember trying to teach it as a second grade teacher. I'm like, I don't know how to explain this to you. So this is a really cool way to teach it.
Very cool. Very cool. Number 8.
Okay, I think I'm taking the lead on this one for us.
Okay.
So in 8, we talked about the initial reading. The teacher prompting is going to be important with comments that are explicit and an introduction of the text. And then the teacher would encourage the strong, definite locating behaviors, so helping the student navigate the text. I talked about that. And then guiding that finger for the students with that one-to-one word match for a lower level reader. I know they say D and below for that, so wherever that support is needed. And then supporting the language features within the text. So that can mean different things depending on the level of the text. So they went into some details with that. Helping the student get the information from the print and solving problems. So working through the words or the fluency through the sentence or phrasing. The child is doing the work here though. So the teacher is a facilitator of the learning, and then obviously positive feedback, really supporting successes. So the student builds that confidence and self-correction when an error is made. So given any feedback for any errors that are made, being very, very positive. Comparing that to the choice words text, we looked at being strategic. So being strategic in what they're teaching, and that obviously covers a broad spectrum of ideas. But then asking questions and being deliberate in what you are doing. So based on what the student is comprehending or struggling, or words that they're struggling to work through, you have to make sure you work through, but then make sure your questions reflect areas that are going to help the student grow. And then the section on knowing, the teacher extends the student comments and makes the learning visible. So with that, could be printing words on a chart. It could be creating a chart for the child. It could be writing in a Post-it note, whatever strategy it is you're going to use to make it visible for that child. And then we really like the quote that was in this section on teaching strategies. It talks about teaching for strategies rather than just teaching strategies. So we added that quote in there. Teaching for strategies requires setting children up to generate strategies, then reviewing with them in an agentive retelling. So in an agency, so they're using the agency of the word to be able to make meaning. The effectiveness of the strategies they generated, as in you figured out that tricky word by yourself. How did you do that? Having the children tell you where they're making corrections so that they're identifying them rather than you saying, wow, great job. You worked through that word. I noticed that you did this. You're having the child identify those error patterns. And then the children do this. They're in control of problem solving process, and they ask to consciously recognize that control is an agentive nature. So again, the student taking agency or ownership of their wording. So we really liked that quote and felt that was very powerful. And Abby, is there anything you want to add? Because we did this together, but I'm just sharing it for us.
No, I think you got it. I just love giving the students the power, so to speak, to solve their own problems and be able to recognize that. I know personally, like, kids being empowered and finding out their own mistakes is like so exciting for them. Like, oh, I didn't know this, and this is how I fixed it. And so I just really liked that.
And it hits on the metacognitive that we talked about earlier. Powerful. Thank you both. And 9, read it fast.
Okay, so reading it fast actually does not work. And this reminded me of Dybels. I know I said that at the end there, that fluency isn't everything. Yes, it's important, but it has nothing to do with comprehension. And we take for granted how fluent we are as readers when we can read, and that we as reading instructors need to be cognizant of exactly what we're doing when we're reading so that we can help struggling readers. And we naturally do things like skipping words and slowing down over complex words or unfamiliar words, or even skipping lines sometimes. And the more that we can be aware of what we're doing and naming it, the more we can instruct students to do that as well. I really liked the quote on page 125 that we cannot accept slow staccato reading because that will become a bad habit and one that's hard to break. And we also can't accept them reading too fast without slowing down to talk about their reading. I feel like a bunch of the section was, bits that we've talked about and read about before, nothing yet too surprising or new, but that's good. That means we're all on the right track.
And the Dibbles thing was interesting too. I like lots of connections across things, right? Wonderful, wonderful, everybody. Okay, so what I'd like to do, so, you're getting a lot from literacy lessons. Obviously, it's like reading an encyclopedia in some ways. So I kind of want you to be aware of the pieces as they're going by so that you can use them. If you run into a situation where a student is doing something that you don't kind of know how to react to it, you can look in your little encyclopedia and find descriptions and answers. So it looks like, Lisa, we have run out of time after all that. So Lisa is yeah, you'll go next time. And so I'd like to put us all into groups and into your groups to go. And just looking at the sign up, next time we have, all right, we have Crystal and Ashley. Oh, Ashley's not here. But we also, and Kaylee's not here. Okay, so Crystal and Charnay are going to be doing some of their videos, as will Lisa. So I may have to readjust this a little bit because there's no way we could do all that. But for now, why don't we go into our groups and you guys can talk